so you guys know, we are going to do a little bit of an investigating patterns tomorrow. So please do bring your batteries for your graphing calculators, or bring your graphing calculators. Okay, one or the other, please. It'll save you a lot of time. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the quadratic relationship between two things and what it looks like in factored form. Today what we want to talk about is what happens if we are able to factor it like that. Okay? And there might be something out there. And we want to sketch a parabola with the equation x minus 2 times x minus 6. Okay? Well, what can we tell from this equation? Well, we can definitely tell the x-intercepts, right? It's already factored. So remember, x-intercepts mean that y is 0. So for x-intercepts, we just need to solve. The equation 0 is x minus 2 times x minus 6. Right? And remember, that tells us that either x minus 2 is 0, so x is 2, so x is 6. So let's plot that information so far. So we have that and that are the x-intercepts. The next question is, where's the vertex? Where's that turning point? Okay. Well, you can see that the parabola has a middle, right? So the parabola has a middle there, and that guy right there is called, so that right there is called the axis of symmetry. Okay, so that's the axis of symmetry. And in this case, what's the equation for the axis of symmetry? Okay, well, it's a vertical line. So a vertical line always has the equation x equals something, and in this case, it's x equals 4. Okay, now notice that that 4 is always right between the two zeros. Okay, so what I want you guys to write down is the fact that the axis of symmetry is, in this case, between 2 and 6. So in this case, it's the average of 2 and 6. So 2 plus 6 divided by 2, right? So it's x equals 4, right? And we can say, in general, if we have y is equal to a, x minus s, and x minus t, the axis of symmetry is, remember, the zeros are going to be s and t, because x minus s is going to be 0, so x is s. X minus t is going to be 0, so x is t. So the axis of symmetry is always going to be x is equal to s plus t divided by 2. So the average of the two zeros. That's all you have to remember. Average of zeros. Okay? Alright. So we have our axis of symmetry. Okay? Now the vertex, remember, the vertex is that turning point. So the parabola is going to go down until it hits the vertex, and it's going to go back up. Or it's going to go up till it hits the vertex, and then going to go back down. Okay? So what I also want you to write down is that the axis of symmetry is also the x value of the vertex. Okay? So x equals 4 is the x part of the vertex. Okay? And now, if I know the x value, how are we going to find the y value? What do you guys think? Well, we can just sub it into that equation, right? So, I want you to also write that down. Okay? To find the y value of the vertex, I just want you to simply sub the x value into the original quadratic equation. Okay, so in this case, y is equal to x minus 2 times x minus 6 so y is equal to, we know x is going to be 4, so 4 minus 2 times 4 minus 6, which is 2 times negative 2, so negative 4. So therefore our vertex is the point, x coordinate is 4, y coordinate we just found is negative 4. Okay? Okay, so let's plug that into our graph. So we have 4, negative 4 is our vertex. So we have the vertex and we have the x-intercept. Well, at this point, we can just make the graph. Okay? We don't need to know exactly what it looks like. We just need to know that it roughly hits all 3 of those points. Okay? We will get tomorrow into exactly what it looks like. Alright? So, first we found the zeros, then we found the axis of symmetry, which is in between the 2 zeros, the average of them. Then we sub that in to find our y-coordinate. Alright? Okay. So, for this parabola, we want to state the zeros, state the axis of symmetry, state the vertex, and state which way the parabola is opening. Okay? So we're going to talk about all that. So, to find the zeros, okay? To find the zeros, remember that means x-intercepts. So we let y be 0. So we want to solve 0 is negative 2, x minus 1, x plus 5. So this tells us that x minus 1 is 0, which means x is 1. This tells us that x plus 5 is 0, which means x is negative 5. Okay, so there are the zeros. Okay, zeros, check, and check. Okay. So B, I want the axis of symmetry. Okay. Remember, axis of symmetry is an x equals equation, and it's always the average of the 2 zeros. So 1 plus negative 5 divided by 2, which is negative 4 divided by 2, negative 2. So axis of symmetry is x equals negative 2. Okay? So check. The green part, zeros, check. Now let's do the vertex. Okay? Well, we know the x-coordinate of the vertex is negative 2. Right? That's our axis of symmetry. Okay? For the y-coordinate of the vertex, we're just going to take our negative 2 and we're going to sub it into our equation. Okay? So let me just copy this, bring it down. Okay, so there's our equation. And what we're going to do now is we're going to sub in -2 in for x. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking -2 and I'm subbing it in for the 2x values. Okay, so I have -2 times x minus 1 times x plus 5. So this is -2 times -3 times 3, which is 18. So we have a vertex is x value is -2, y value is 18. Okay? Now the last part that it wants to know is the direction of opening. Okay? Well, let's look at what our graph would look like if we were to graph it. I'm not going to graph the whole thing, but we found zeros at 1 and -5, and we found a vertex at -2, 18. So which way is the parabola going to open? Down. Right? It has to open down because it has to go like that, right, for it to hit all three of those points. Okay? So this one opens down. Okay? Okay. So last example. Find the equation of a parabola with zeros, x is 2 and x is 8, and a y-intercept of 8. Okay? So the fact that the zeros are x is 2, right, that means that x minus 2 was equal to 0 at some point. So that means that x minus 2 is one of the factors. Okay? And this part here tells us that x minus 8 was one of the factors. Right? So now the question is, what's that a value? Right? That part we don't know yet. Okay? Because see how here there was a -2. Here there wasn't anything, which means there's like a 1. Okay? But in general, there could be something there. So now I have an x, a y, and an a. Okay, so I need to find that a value, right? So what is that? Okay. Well, remember with linear equations, when you did y equals mx plus b, and I would tell you that it goes through the point 1, 1, and the slope is 3. So you know y is 3x plus b. How would you find b? Well, do you remember that you would just sub in the x and the y value, and you would say that, and then you would say b is -2 because you take that over and you get b is -2. So we're going to do the same thing. We know an x and a y value. Okay, this part right here, that the y-intercept is 8, tells us that the point, so what are the coordinates if the y-intercept is 8? On a y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always 0, and the y-coordinate is the intercept. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this point, and we're going to sub in for xy. Okay? And that's how we're going to solve for a. Okay? So we know y is 8. X is 0, so we get a -2 times -8, so we get 8 is a times 16. Now we divide both sides by 16, and we get 1/2. Right? So the equation is y equals a x minus s x minus t. Okay. Your homework is on the Angel site under March the 5th, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Remember, bring your batteries.